things we could talk about. Chop it up, chop it, chop it, chop it, chop it, chop it up, chop it up, chop it. We got some things we could talk about. Come to the show, we about to chop it up. Come to the show, we got some things we could talk about. Come to the show, we about to chop it up. Come to the show, we got some things we could talk about. Chop it up, chop it, chop it, chop it, chop it up, chop it. We got some things we could talk about. Chop it up, chop it, chop it, chop it up, chop it up, chop it. We got some things we could talk about.
Good evening and welcome to the Chop Shop. I am your host, as always, Pastor Marvin McKinstry Jr., and I'm rocking out with my main man, my right hand and my left hand, the baddest man on the wheels of steel, the ones, the twos, call it what you want. Shock or Pitts is here with me. What's going on, bro?
What's good, brother? How you doing, man?
Man, I am good. Man. Listen, Baltimore is an interesting place. I love my city. It's an interesting place. I was checking out the news, and they were talking about the DPW worker that was shot. And now they're talking about the brother was suspect in the shooting that happened the day before. Man, you know, we pound these streets, man. You know, I got about 1 million miles on my heels, man, out here trying to do everything that we can to reduce this. And of course, everything is alleged and you know, God be with his family. And, you know, I understand he has some children, man, but this violence piece here in Baltimore, man, it is leaves something to be desired.
No, it's ridiculous. I was during the PAC session today, when we was in the PAC session, one of our staff, they literally was like, oh, they were shooting outside. They were actually shooting outside during, you know, and so it's like, you know, this was 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Marv, you know, in a residential area. So
how about one of the days that we worked down at the center? I got down there a little after Mr. Owens, and the whole Lafayette and Gilmore was blocked off with tape because somebody had just got shot at 8:30 in the morning, man. You know, we know what our city is facing. We continue to pray and we continue to press to do the work to try to bring different outcomes, man. But this violence piece, man, it is nothing to be, you know, again, it leaves something to be desired. We coming to you live tonight, not only on Facebook, but we started this thing where we broadcasting on YouTube, mostly so you can go back and catch the broadcast at another time. But I'm excited about tonight's show. Y'all see him over my shoulder. I got 3 powerful anointed leaders. Yeah, I could call them by a title, but they are leaders because each one of these people have led the way in various aspects of their ministry and been a blessing and a contributor to my life as a young new pastor. So I'm excited about them tonight. But a segue from talking about the violence, we want to definitely jump right to our Stop the Beef hotline. Y'all know what it is. The Men of the We Are Us movement are out here in these streets, and we're making great strides, but we still need the community to assist us. And the Stop the Beef hotline is one of the ways that you can help. If you know somebody that's in trouble, I don't care if they got a debt that they need to pay or whatever, we need you to get them in contact with us. All right. We have paid for everything from paying the debt off to putting people on buses, planes, and trains to get them out of harm's way. And we need you to make sure if you know somebody and they've gotten themselves in trouble, let them know that they do have some options. Everybody ain't got to be tough. And we definitely, you know, when I'm out with the brothers, Shock, I tell them, even if we got to eat out here in these streets, we ain't got to die in these streets.
everyone, please stay tuned. It looked like Marv has had a hang up, and he looks like he is trying to get back on. Stay tuned with us. Chop Shop, we are here, and just give us a second, please. Here we go. We have
all right. Am I back?
Marv back? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. All right. We glitching a little bit there, man. That was longer than I don't think we ever glitched that long. But yeah, getting back to the Stop the Beef hotline, we definitely want to connect, want to get people connected. So if you know somebody that put themselves in harm's way, let them know they got an option. I tell a young man when we out walking that even if you got to eat in the street, we try to bring you a job. But if you know you got to take care of your family out there, you ain't got to die out there. So hit those numbers and let's keep it moving. With that being said, we got 2 more engagements on the list of in the community this Saturday. We are going to be on South Gilmore Street. We're going to be meeting there on Gilmore Street, and we went all down Baltimore Street, engaged all of the young brothers out there. Many of them were interested in employment opportunities. I don't know what's going on with this internet. Am I still good, Shot? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, brother. You just look a little skippy.
I'm delaying, and that's not normal. I don't know what's up with that.
But I can hear you. I hear you fine.
All right. So let's get, at least we're gonna get through this part, and then we'll figure out if it's something we need to do. But I want everybody to come out this Saturday, all of the men. And on Saturdays, women are allowed to come and walk. Well, I don't want to use terms like allowed, but we because we out in the daytime and it's not night, we like when the women come and walk with us on Saturdays. We're going to be at 112 North Gilmore Street. And we coming in that community, again, armed with jobs and opportunities for anybody who's interested in doing something different. We pray with people as we engage them and bring all kind of resources. Over 1,000 people have received job, mental health services right there on the spot. But we've taken people from the streets right to treatment if they have drug treatment issues, and in some cases, mental health situations. Then on Monday, we're going to be in the Park Heights community. And pastors, I want y'all to know, if you're looking at this broadcast, that we are 1 phone call away from coming to help you do engagement in your community. All you need to do is reach out to us. But we're going to be in the Park Heights community on Monday night. We'll have the flyers posted as always. We're having some technical issues, but there it is. We're going to be at the Lord's Church, 5010 Park Heights Avenue. I always love when we engage up in the 21215, all up along Belvedere and all around there, because the brothers up there are very receptive. I tell people all the time, it's one thing to come to the community, but it's another thing for the community to love you back and receive you. All right. So before we go to our Black History in the Making, today Baltimore lost a champion and a giant who may not have been known by many, but his work is tremendous, because I know it at least goes back 20, 25 years from when I was a young person in the Po-Homes community and in the marching bands around Baltimore City. We talking about the one and only Reverend Ernest King made his transition today. This young man has founded and established the Christian Warriors Marching Band, bold in his profession of his faith, and continually for the last 30 plus years taught young people about Christ, gave them opportunities to learn skills in music, marching, and whenever you saw his band, they were a strong representation of who Christ is. So we just wanted to salute Reverend Ernest King, Rev, as we all called him, one of my good friends, Brother James Parker. He laid a foundation in some of us that went out and did some other stuff and got in trouble, but we were able to come back at an appointed time to do more because of people like Reverend Ernest King. So we want you to keep his family in prayer. Any arrangements that we find out about, we'll definitely share them. So we want to say thank you, Reverend Ernest King, for your contribution to our city. Next, our Black History in the Making is a very good friend and a mentor to me. He is the one and only Dr. Andre Bunley, one of the founding members of the We Are Us movement. And also, he was a principal and teacher in this city for 30-something years. We have a very, very interesting story. When I met Dr. Andre Bunley, I was a young adult, fresh out of prison, and came up to his school ready to put in some work because somebody violated somebody that I cared about. And he pulled me to the side and he said, "Young brother, some spaces got to be sacred. If a person can't come to school at least and get an education, I don't know where they can go." He said to me, "I ain't trying to be in your business, but I'm going to just ask you to not do it here." That not do it here was enough of a delay for me to rethink the entire situation and handle it another way. So I want to give him the chop shop salute tonight. Doc, continue to sow seeds of wisdom in young people and create opportunities, as he's the director of the Mayor's Office of African American Male Engagement. We're going out here and we're going to get to the 10,000 number. And that 10,000 number is going to consume the city of Baltimore and not allow violence to exist. All right. So now I felt like I was talking fast because we lost some time with these glitches. And I'm excited to get to this conversation because I have 3 of my favorite people on the planet. You guys are used to a different person being in one of the seats, but the guy that's in the seat tonight is definitely going to give you some wisdom and jewels. So I want to first bring to the screen my big bro. When it came time for me to become a pastor, he sat down with me, never asked me for anything, and I'm talking about literally would take as much time as was needed to sow into me. I knew because coming up in ministry by succession, just wasn't a lot of people that were still doing it that way. And so I reached out to this brother because that's the way that he did it. He is the pastor of the Mission Life Church. And I hope he down there because it looked like he might be checked off the screen a little bit, but I'm talking about the one and only Pastor Clae Burston. All right, Pastor Clae, when you get back, we gonna say what's up to you. We having all kind of stuff going on tonight. This next person is one of my favorite people. She is a preacher par excellence, a theologian. Her brain, God, man, when I hear her preach and the concept of God, and the now, the relevant now application of God and His Word is just tremendous. She is the pastor of the new Bethlehem Baptist Church, the NBBC, the one and only Dr. Lisa Weah.
Good evening.
Hey, Doc.
Hey, good to see you.
Good to see you. It's been a while. I had them young folks on last month, so I ain't get to sit down with y'all and talk about nothing, but I'm glad to have you with us tonight.
Good to be here.
Somebody call Pastor Clae, tell him get on this camera. All right, and listen, y'all, I'm excited because this is my bro, and he never disappoints. He's always going to give you wisdom, and he is one of the brothers. When I came home from prison and I showed up in the church around the music scene, that showed me real dudes was in the church. And what I mean by real dudes, he was uncompromising and unapologetically a black man that was from the hood and could speak the language of the hood, and the versatility that he brought said, yeah, I have a place. I'm telling you, I seen a lot of y'all that was in church and I said, no, that ain't me, man. Maybe I need to be somewhere else. But this young man right here who is holding on to a lot of the traditions of the church because he's unapologetically him. I'm talking about the one and only, the incomparable Bishop Bryant K. Martin. What's up, doctor? You muted or something. We got to get you some audio. Is he muted? Don't worry, you ain't the only one tonight. We got glitches all over the place. I don't know what's going on with this thing. Yeah, we still don't have you. So do this for me. Check out and log right back in. So I guess it's just me and you, Doc. Just me and you. I don't know where Pastor Clay, but we're gonna make it do what it do. I need y'all to like, love, and to share this broadcast. Tag some people down in the comments that you think should hear this conversation, because I laugh and I joke a lot, but this is a very serious topic to me as a young pastor. And one of the reasons that we have in this show is because I wanted to get some wisdom from those who have been doing this a little bit longer. We're talking about post-COVID church. Post-COVID church. We're talking about a church that one of my favorite people describes as a scattered church, because we were kind of forced out of our buildings. Many churches respond tremendously. Many people literally embrace technology in a new way. The church served wonderfully and all of those kinds of things, man. The church has been awesome. But I want to know tonight, has our awesomeness given the people the kind of seat at home that they might not want to come back? For years we heard about Bedside Baptist, but we had Bedside because we ain't had no choice. Facebook Live and all of that. So I want to start with you tonight, Dr. Weah. Post-COVID church. One of the major questions I have. Do you think that the church is going to be anxious to return to the building?
Well, I believe that there are so many different statistics being thrown around, theories being thrown around. I believe that each church is going to find out for itself what its post-COVID character will be. I think that certainly there are many who will not return to a physical building. Their spiritual needs, they feel, are being met virtually, and we're not mad at them. There are those who need the physical connection who will return. There are so many souls coming in the next harvest um, who will be coming into our buildings or joining us virtually. I believe that God shut the doors to bring our mindset about church beyond the building. And so I don't think we can measure post-COVID church size or success from how many people may be inside of our buildings. I believe that that season is over. And so church must become now more of a missional concept. And so certainly, you know, those of us who love church, we love church. We're going to come back and we're going to have church, whatever that's going to look like. But there are persons who are going to connect with Christ, who are going to get saved, who are going to connect with mission and go on to do great things for the kingdom, who may never walk into our buildings. And we have to be okay with that, because this is something God orchestrated, not us. It's just as shocking to some people as the pericope in Acts when God had the blanket come from heaven in Peter's dream and said, you know,
talk about
the animals, and he said, take and eat. And Peter's like, oh, you know, we can't do that. You said this isn't how it's supposed to be done. And God was trying to, in a radical way, say to him, you know, I'm doing a new thing and I have to shock you in order for you to catch this. So
that's awesome. That's an awesome analogy.
Revelation. You know, some people have left our churches and they're not coming back. Some people have left our churches and gone to other churches and they're not coming back. And you know, I believe because New Bethlehem went through a fire, we hadn't even been back in our building a year before the pandemic hit. And so when you go through a fire, it literally strips you of not just your building, but your sense of security, because you don't even have a home base to come back to.
Yeah.
And so going through that period, with the restoration and bless God, he's brought us home to a fabulous, you know, new facility. But going through that really helped shift our mindsets so that we're just open to whatever God was going to do. And
Doc,
so,
let me get these two guys back in here. They hanging out somewhere backstage. All right, I don't know. He dipped off on me, but now he's back. I'm talking about the one and only. And listen, I gave you one of them good Steve Harvey introductions, bro. You wasn't even here. Come on, y'all, put some hearts and some thumbs up in the chat for my main man, Pastor Clae Burston.
Praise God, everybody. Good to see
you. They had a 6 o'clock trading session you had to catch, bro.
Hey, listen. Amen.
Hey, do we have Bishop Martin right yet? I gotta get my bro. Can we hear you, Bishop?
Hey, buddy, can you hear me?
All right. So Dr. Weah was so eloquently, and listen, this is your first time here, Bishop. It's not set up necessarily to be a Q&A, because if you know anything about Pastor Clae, he take over the show every time he come anyway. So we can talk to each other, we can cross talk, because we want to talk about post-COVID church. And Dr. Weah, I don't know if you guys heard her backstage, was so eloquently, you know, talking and gave even the scripture as a reference or analogy of in the book of Acts, when the blanket fell down and Peter saw all the things God said, go on and eat. And he said, no, you said don't eat. And he said, you know, I'm doing a new thing. we've been preaching at my church in Jeremiah in Joshua, and God has just kind of had me lingering around the 3rd chapter and the first 5 verses. And one of the things he said in there is, "You've never come this way before." I'm a new pastor, so I ain't got no experience. But for a seasoned pastor, and either one of y'all, Bishop or Pastor Clay, jump in. Coming, having some experience with this thing. Bishop, I think you almost 20 years in now, and I know Pastor Clay, you around 11, 12 years in. You come to this. What impact do you think this is going to have long term? 14, he corrected me. Sure. I'm going to give you all yours, bro.
I cry.
What impact do you guys believe this is going to have in the long term? Or what do you already see it having?
Okay, well, Bryant is much older than I, so I'll let him go first.
Wow, I'm not that much older than you, Clay, but nonetheless,
they find shots already.
Yeah. I'm a little different from. I share with the sentiments of Dr. Lisa. I definitely believe in her theological equivalent to what's going on. However, I'm just a little concerned with the audacity of the church to become so comfortable in many instances bowing out. I'm good friends with a friend of mine who owns a club on Bel Air Road and Gay Street. And he said to me that the city could not exist without an outlet. And so they were adamant about finding a way to have a party. He laughed at me because I told him I was waiting to get back into church. So
talk about it.
My prerogative was birthed from somebody who saw the church being more necessary than the club. But the club was trying to figure out how they can get back open while the church had become comfortable and common with the virtual reality. Now I'm too wise to even argue that virtual church is a necessity. But for some of us, unlike Pastor Clay and Dr. Lisa, I pastor a Pentecostal storefront church, so we wasn't able to have some of the technical things that they have at their churches to do the streaming. We don't have the money that Pastor Clay has. We don't have the context that Pastor Lisa has. So much of our ministry was done off of a phone. And I felt very irrelevant and insignificant. And yes, I'm throwing shade at them. Yeah, I'm not throwing shade. And so I don't necessarily, I do believe that Dr. Lisa said something very great. That not only are some people not coming back, the pandemic was the excuse they needed not to come back. They had already planned to leave the church, but they didn't have a justifiable excuse to do it. So the pandemic was an easy exit for them. But for me, I joke with my friends, but for me, the pandemic allowed me to kind of re-grab the whole mission of church, to connect the addendums, to connect missions and worship, to connect social justice and worship, not just to be caught into the corridors of praise, worship, and preaching, but find out how we can minister outside. My only argument is, with everybody else doing everything else, the church seems to be on pause. The malls have not shut down. The clubs haven't shut down. The strippers are dancing in masks, I say the strippers are dancing in masks, but the church is afraid to come back to church. So I think we need to gut check and say, if we're scared, say we're scared, and still apply wisdom. But I am not going to ever applaud the commentary that says we're good being a virtual ministry only. I have, and I will.
So let me come to you, Pastor Clay. Not to say that you have any difference of perspective, but what is your perspective along these same lines?
Yeah, well, so ultimately, I believe I share the same sentiment as Bishop and as both bishops, and but I do believe that transition always reveals the hearts of those who you're connected to. If you want to know who's really connected to you, go through a transition. And in that moment of transition, you will discover fairly quickly who's really connected to you. So I believe, if nothing else, the pandemic has revealed who is truly connected, not to your church, but to God. So I believe that there are some people who are not coming back. They're not going to come back. And the reason that they're fighting so hard for the church, because here's a hard reality. There are some Christians who are in their hearts praying for the failure of the physical church. I believe they don't want it, because if we open our doors again, then they have to choose to come back or not. Right? Because right now, they can blame the pandemic and all this, but if we reopen, now you got to be a deacon again or a minister again. Now you got to be accountable again, and using COVID as a sort of as a shield to hide you just being a trifling leader is pretty much like what's not being said, but it's really what's happening. So, with that being said, but I do believe this. I do believe that God is going to send a new wave of people. I believe it wholeheartedly. And I believe that our churches are going to look so different once we reopen. I don't think we're going to reopen to open church. I mean, to churches. I believe people who were looking their whole lives for Dr. Lisa Weah, Bishop Dr. Lisa Weah. So is it Dr. Bishop Lisa Weah?
I think you picked one. I always pick the one that she had to stand. I always pick the one she had to stand and defend for and just call her doctor. You know what I mean?
Dr. Bishop Lisa Weah, who would have never experienced her ministry. And they cannot wait to get into the church. And if you fell in love with her online, you have not really experienced her until you get in that building and feel that Holy Ghost in the room, and when she lay hands on you. So I believe that God is for those of us who can hold on. I believe our hands are going to be laid on new people that we've never seen before, and they're going to have a fresh energy and fresh fire that has that isn't prefaced by any other agenda. But I love this ministry, and it's going to be a good thing, because I know in my church, my greatest opponent has not been the devil. It's been those old members that link up to new members. And then by the time, it's just their wind is different. With like they love the church, love Pastor Clay. Then they in some kind of way, they hook up with an old member, and then they take on some of those old mannerisms, those old ideas. And you're like, what happened? I thought we was cool, right? Yep. So I believe that God is going to remove that. And then when we reopen these churches, I believe they're going to be full of new people who have a clean perspective that only want to serve God.
I was in Oxford, PA. I had to go minister in Oxford, Pennsylvania. It was the first time I'd heard of Oxford, Pennsylvania. Last week when I had to go up there to minister, and the prophet that was in the building, he did minister to me about new people. I mean, he was very clear. He didn't have a lot to say to me. I think that I kind of turn prophets off because I'm sitting there looking so unimpressed when they doing what they doing. But Dr. Weah, with kind of the common, theme, or the common space of agreement that we have here today, being the idea of new people. Where should the mind, and I'm a young pastor, I want your wisdom tonight. Where should the mind of leaders, whether you're the senior leader or whether you're leaders in ministry, where should our minds and our thought processes be? Of course, in prayer and seeking God, but where should we be strategically, with that being kind of the common theme?
I have been speaking prophetically about this third dispensation that we're in, and how God literally used this pandemic to force us to shift to where we need to be. Our mindset has to be completely missional now. And so whatever the components administratively, whatever the components in terms of personnel, in terms of technology, in terms of physical space, in terms of ministry programs, we have to be completely missional. This is not the time for frills and thrills and because in many ways we had gotten away from what we were supposed to be doing. As the church as a whole. And God has literally stripped all of that stuff away. This is going to be the greatest harvest of souls we have ever seen
Yeah.
in this generation. In generations, literally, we are about to see the things that we were supposed to have been seeing, but we have been lulled into complacency and drawn away from the true mission of the church. Jesus said, "Greater things than these shall ye do." But we haven't even been seeing the miracle signs and wonders that they saw in those days. We've gotten off focus. We're about to see the glory of God manifest through these people, like my brothers were just saying, the people who have not been tainted by church drama and you know, just church politics and all this kind of stuff. We're stripped down, so we're really gonna have real church. We're gonna be real church. This is where our mindsets have to be. If we put the fake, phony, pretentious helmets back on, the churches that do that really are going to die.
They just want Jesus and him crucified. Come on, Bishop Brian Martin, you over there on Harford Road, and bro, I have been in service with you, and I've seen the people right in the frailty of their condition, be it addiction or otherwise, come in your church. You didn't have smoke machines or nothing progressive. It was old sanctified worship in there. And you remember that day I was there. I think it was maybe a Thanksgiving. It brought me to tears the way that the people came in right off of Harford Road, bro. So you've been progressive, kind of bringing the people in, even though people say you the old school. Talk to us about what this next wave or this next phase of ministry is looking like for Bishop Brian Martin.
It's just going to be a deliberate and intentional learning and developing from my constituents in terms of how they stream and do virtual church and missions. That's the only thing I'm adding. Teach me how to do it appropriately. Teach me how to go outside and shake hands and love and give out baskets. But the core of who I am hasn't changed. I've always been an antagonist against celebrity church. I've always thought that the diluted church was the byproduct of personalities and celebrities who don't really preach the gospel anymore. I still believe for the salvation of sinful, one must be born again, which includes genuine repentance, water baptism in Jesus Christ's name, and the baptism of the Holy Ghost. I still believe that there's only one way we're going to see God, and that's to be holy. And that's the desire for all of us. So I don't necessarily know if I'm going to change my core, but what I do enjoy is that there's a shoulder-to-shoulder concept right now. Nobody's winning above anybody right now. Everybody is almost started fresh and still have the anxiety of not knowing. It's a little different for me now to come to church because I used to have to deal with people who I knew didn't want to be there. But now I can deal with people who I know want to be there. Jeez. And so the pandemic has helped me, as Pastor Clay said, reinvest in I don't have to fight the spirits of the familiar anymore. I don't have to preach at the congregation. Get off me. Clap your hands. No, these people are saying we have fought through the pandemic's fear to come to worship. So you ain't got to beg us to praise. You ain't got to beg us to dance. You ain't got to beg us to hug our neighbor. We are glad to be alive. And I'm going to say something that might be a little challenging for my constituents. If right now my church doesn't do anything but what it's doing right now, I'm absolutely good with that.
So let me throw this out there as a question. And Pastor Clay, you know, if you want to answer this or whoever you want to jump in, do we see there being a need in this next move to return to a lot of the stuff that we shouldn't have left in the first place? I literally spoke to a pastor who told me that he did not do baptism, did not see where baptism was necessary, did not teach on baptism. I said, is it now? I asked him, I said, is it just because you don't have a pool? Because there's places you can go to get you some water, brother. But no, literally, because, you know, we've in our own way become so progressive. So the return to the foundation of and I'm looking at all three of you guys' faces. You can imagine what my face looked like hearing this.
Yeah. I think people, to be honest, I think that people, those things, those tenets, those foundational are very important. I do believe that they're necessary. I do believe that we should teach those things, so that when new doctrine come, your people are strong enough to not bite. I believe that we raised that some of our brothers in Christ, I believe that they kind of have lost their, because every new they take on to it. And I believe that that's for people who've been saved for a very long time and they're bored with church, so they need something new. I believe these new believers, they don't need all that. I believe they need just sound teaching, pure fellowship, because all of those foundational truths that we all grew up on were important and necessary. However, I believe that people have a way of contaminating the beautiful. You know what I'm saying? So the system wasn't broken. I believe that some of the people who were a part of it abused it. And that's just true. But it wasn't the majority. I think the majority of pastors are upstanding, honest people, and a few have, it's life. But that's in any system, whether it's police, whether it's whatever. I think the majority are good people, but there are some challenges. So I believe that those tenets are very important and necessary. I believe coming to church is important because it teaches you how to be humble. It shows you how to work with your brothers and sisters. It holds you accountable, meaning that there are some things that we have not engaged in because of our fellowship with our people, or just other saints. So I believe it's very important that we come to church, the building, because it's sacrificial. So that's just my opinion. So I believe.
I agree with you. So then my question is then, do we need to really get rid of a lot of the fluff? Like Bishop Martin said, we are at a starting point, right? And I'm gonna give you a little bit of my testimony. Coming out of prison and walking into the church, a lot of the stuff that was going on, I flat out didn't understand. Mm-hmm. I got up and walked out of a church one day because I went in there, and I was in a real battered and needy place, and the people was dancing and shouting around, and I didn't understand, and I didn't have nothing to celebrate in that moment anyway. So I got up and I walked out. Where we're talking about a fresh move with new souls. You laughing at me, Bishop, but I'm serious.
Was it my church?
No, it wasn't your church,
okay,
man. I don't even think you was pastoring yet.
Okay.
You was MCing and stuff. This was 20-something years ago.
Okay.
And I'm telling you, because God had to use music to get me reconnected, because after that day, I was never walking in the church again. I just didn't think it was relevant to me. So how much reevaluation do we need to do, right? So that when we get this fresh harvest of souls and people who are new, and I'm not talking about smoking lights and all, I ain't talking about that. Right. I'm talking about really making sure that we're prepared for people who are not churched. Y'all help the young passed out. I need help.
Well, for me, I'm gonna tell you what I've been delivered about. I will admit I have been church on steroids for 21 years, and it's caused a lot of damage. I do believe that the detoxing of the unnecessary is very important. I would never say this before, but because you guys are my friends, I'll admit that there is something called too much church. And I have been one who has sponsored too much church. I think that the burnout and the frustration for a lot of us is because we don't have church in its proper perspective. I desperately believe in Sunday morning worship and an authentic Bible class and auxiliary ministries that kind of deal with the holistic part of man during the course of a week, but that must be spread out appropriately. But I think that we got to get back to teaching people how that God gives us life, and it's not a sin to go out to dinner. It's not a sin. I told Pastor Burston this the other day. Him and his wife are in their early 40s, and they gave me 2 little nieces and nephews who bring more life to me. I make them call me in every day and talk to them, and the joy I see them having just in little crazy stuff. My godson wanted to go to the mall to get a pretzel. I mean, he could have got anything he wanted to get at the mall, but he told his dad, Clay, take me to the mall and get a pretzel. And I watched Clay get up and take his son to the mall, not to get Jordans, not to get a t-shirt, but get a pretzel. That gives you another part of joy. And I think if we don't have those components, we'll have people dancing mad because we wear out the faithful, we wear out the loyal. And so for me, I've only came back to do Sunday morning worship, Sunday school, Sunday morning worship, and Bible class. Now my Bible class will be virtual because that's better for the wear and the tear of the people. But I've done away with a whole bunch of evening services. You know, I used to have church all day, every Sunday. I didn't believe in going home or going to brunch on no Sunday. But I've kind of removed myself from wearing people out like that to find the joys of life and other things.
Has there been a healthy respite in this place for some folks where the concern is that there are others who literally have saw their out? Has it just been a healthy respite for some folks that are anxiously awaiting a return?
But how can serving God be unhealthy?
No, you see, did you hear my question? There he go. Did you hear my question? I said, has there been a healthy respite from the church?
Because the church in its greatest strength was when churches wasn't a activity that we kind of balanced. It was we church people, we saved, and we do this. So my kids are on the choir, my wife is in women's ministry, I'm the husband, I'm in men's ministry, and we go to church because it's what we do. And but now we're trying to balance our lives with God. So I give church a little bit of my life. I give yoga some, you know what I mean? And I don't believe that. I believe that.
Well, no, that wasn't my question, Pastor. My question was those folks that have been engaging virtually,
right?
You know, they haven't had to come to the building. Has there been space where it's been a healthy respite for some to have some time to reevaluate, who may now be sitting anxiously waiting to return to the church? Because we've got to talk about the folks that we believe may never come back and that sort of thing. But you guys being pastors, have you engaged folks in your own ministry that while they got a healthy breather, you know, absence make the heart grow fonder, in that space of absence said, man, look, I couldn't wait to get back?
Well, the only people I had a vote with was the seniors of my church. I didn't have an open vote. I asked all of the people who were over 65, how did they feel about church? And they said, let's get back to church. So the seniors of my church made the decision to come back, and the young people followed. It was up until my understanding that many of them wasn't giving us enough attention. It was a church smorgasbord. They would leave my service, then go to Lisa's service, then go to Clay's service, then flip over to Jamal's service, come to your church. I don't want nobody in my church going to y'all church on Sunday mornings. I want y'all to come to your own church. So to keep that safeguarded, I'm coming back in the building where you can be dedicated to the church you belong to. Because if you go to my church, see, you know what wins with virtual church? Whoever has the best virtual
production
wins.
Right. So production value.
Like me with a cell phone on the stand and folk walking back and you can't hardly hear it, they don't win. But then you go to Mission Life and he put $30,000 worth of lights hanging from the ceiling. He got mics descending and ascending. You got Lisa appearing out of nowhere. They're gonna win. They're gonna win. I don't want y'all. I don't want my.
Hey Bishop, listen. I caught Pastor Clay service last Sunday. I was literally in my room, and I live on YouTube, looking at preachers and different stuff, and it said Mission Life morning service. And I literally just clicked on it to kind of catch a little bit, but I was sitting there checking it out, and I was like, man, Clay got this thing right.
He has commercials. He's giving money away to people who love folk. He has a love T-shirt.
The Mahava Project.
What is it called?
Mahava.
What is it called, Clay?
I'm paying attention. Mahava.
He's doing all that, man. I don't want none of my members looking at none of he got. And he's right around the corner from my church. I don't even drive that way on Sunday. I don't even want to see nothing.
Oh man. Dr. Weah, the community perspective of it. We have done a lot of intentional engagement. You being a person that was always in your community. What impacts have you seen, or what not impact? Because we had that show before. What what space is the community as they see you or see you guys returning to your church? What space is that set the community that you've loved on and you have ministered to? What kind of feedback have you gotten from them?
Well, see, we never stopped serving in the community throughout the pandemic. We've been out in the streets. We've been doing partnerships every week. So there was never any gap because of the pandemic. If anything, the pandemic provided more opportunities for even more partnerships
Awesome.
as more resources were poured into the community. So the community never saw any impact of the church being closed on Sundays. We've actually gained more community participation. And we've been outside on our lot now since Resurrection Sunday. And I'm enjoying the new church. So you know, we have a remnant from uh, before we closed, but there are whole a whole new crew. There's a whole new crew of community persons who are coming and joining us outside, and we're having an incredible time. And you know, I just have this mentality: whatever God is doing in this season, I am here for it.
Yeah.
Whatever He's doing, I'm here for it.
We have in my church specifically, we have definitely grown. We chose Zoom as our platform instead of Facebook Live. And I just felt that that was the way that God led me as the leader for us to go, because I still wanted the engagement, and Zoom allowed for that. And one of the things that we've done is we've set up things inside the church. And Dr. Weah, you've actually experienced this with us already, where the Zoom virtual is still giving access to the folks who are at home to participate in our service. So I made the decision that it's always going to be there as an option to folks who may not want to come in the building ever again. Has there been any growth in the sense of your reach? I know I have a few members in Texas now. We have some people coming in our auxiliaries that are in New Jersey and other spaces. How has that impacted you guys' ministry, the fact that you are available in other means and other platforms?
I don't know about my reach.
Well, Bishop, you the itinerant preacher anyway. You all over the country all the time, so you know.
Yeah.
I didn't quote you on Facebook Live everywhere.
Yeah.
So
I think for me, that's the embarrassing part. See, that's what I want to be vulnerable about. It's hard when you go around the world and preach, and then someone has an opportunity to watch your stream and like, is that an iPhone he got set up? It takes the power out the war cry if you don't have the appropriate things. And and listen, for me, and I'd be very vulnerable, I was very broken with the virtual church. But I do believe it will give me a greater capacity to reach other people, because there are people who enjoy the types of church I have that are coming in and they give and they follow. I don't know if anybody has joined out of state yet. I'm not gonna lie about that. But I do know, based upon what they tell me, that there are normally about 5 to 6 people out of state that come in every Sunday morning, just about the time when I'm about to preach. So I'm only assuming that after we put some more things together in a more professional way, that can only be better. But I think it would behoove all of us to make that effort, because it would extend our reach. I mean, it would, and the more you get, then you can create a virtual church. I don't necessarily know how I can rock and shake a neighbor virtually, but I'm going to learn how to do that. I mean, I'm definitely going to learn. But for me, I definitely think it's something we need to employ.
I think it's inevitable that you will attract people in places so far away that they could not physically come to your campus. I think what the virtual platform magnified such as it is has done for many has number one, it has given people an opportunity to see people like Bishop Martin who may come into their city, but now they get to see him operating as pastor to his people, as opposed to national, speaker at conferences, because it's a different setting and it requires a different, not a different person, but a different presentation.
Yeah.
And this is part of why we don't actually want our people on everybody's broadcast every Sunday. If you're pastoring, then you have vision that God has given. You're preaching intentionally in line with the vision. You're preaching to grow the people that God has entrusted to you. You're shepherding. If you're out ministering, then you're coming in more of an evangelistic, prophetic nature, and so you don't want your people getting a smorgasbord of different meals when you're being very intentional about the nutrients that you're providing every week. So certainly some people will say, you know what, I need what Bishop Martin's feeding. I need what Bishop Weah is feeding. I need what Pastor Burston's feeding, and connect them that way. But the heart of the matter is, if you're a pastor, then your heart and soul is focused on providing that steady meal to the sheep that God has entrusted to you each and every week. And so it has challenged many persons virtually, because having a regular Sunday sit down with my family is different from if I'm the conference preacher out on a circuit. That's two totally different settings.
That's an awesome way to put
And
it.
I'm going to bring the best of who I am to both settings, but there's a different intention in each of those settings.
I got one more question that I want to throw out there, and I really want to hear from all three of you guys on this. We're in that space now. We actually winding down. We got about 6-7 more minutes to go, and I got to run straight to the airport. Ministry calls in Dallas. Amen. I got to literally log off here and go straight to the airport, so we getting off on time. But we're in a space where the government and society is pushing the vaccine. And somebody asked me, Pastor, what do you think about the vaccine? And my response was, I believe it's the same response I give as it pertains to things like the election. I believe these things are intimate. I believe you have a responsibility to educate yourself and make a decision that is yours to make and that you can live with. I do not give advice when it comes down to politics and when it comes down to things of that nature. Have you guys encountered people that have sought your perspective concerning to be vaccinated or not? And how do you as a pastor respond to that?
Well, certainly we're asked as leaders. All I do really is share my own personal perspective and the journey that I went on, because I was certainly a vaccine skeptic at first. I did make the decision to go ahead and get vaccinated, and I put a task force in place at my church to ensure that we were able to assist everyone who wanted to be vaccinated to get vaccinated, as well as to make information available to those who weren't sure, those who were afraid. But ultimately, it really is a personal decision. So I could only share my own personal journey that I went through to come to my decision. But everybody has to make up their own mind.
Yeah, that's the same thing for me, Dr. Weah. It was personal. I've been vaccinated, and I tell you, it does feel a little better to praise them in a vaccinated posture. I that's for me, because I just feel a little better. And I have other underlying health issues, such as Pastor Clae. I've been,
I don't.
You have high blood pressure, sir. You take pills in the morning like I do. And so when you have underlying health issues, you just think of, I have diabetes and things of that nature. So I want to make sure that was a little extra. So for me, it was personal, but just about 40% of my church that comes to church on Sundays has been vaccinated. And I guess I don't demonize people who don't, and I don't glorify people who do.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's good.
I kind of leave it alone. When I'm with my friends who I spend a lot of time with, I wish they would be concerned about me, i.e. Pastor Clay. But ask him, Pastor Marvin, what does he think about that?
Did you hear the actual question, Pastor Clay?
Yeah. Well,
the question wasn't to be vaccinated or not. It was from your perspective. How do you respond when people seek that information through pastoral counsel? I said that I personally don't give that advice. I want people to do the same thing that I chose to do, get educated on the matter, and then pursue what is the best option for them.
I don't know, man, because a pastor friend of mine said to me that when she opens a church, she's going to stipulate that you cannot enter the building unless you have a card proving that you vaccinated. Yep. So I don't know if she's being responsible, a responsible pastor, or if she's So to be honest, everyone.
I can't do this for Bishop. I can't do this for Bishop.
Let me tell you something. We're gonna stand before God when this is over and have to make an account for the deeds that's been done in the body. And if somebody is making somebody give a card to get in church, that's tough for me. But
one of my members asked me that question, like, Pastor, are you going to require people to be vaccinated to come to church? I said, I don't know how you do that because it's about souls. You know what I mean? I am not going to require somebody because we are enough into this.
We do.
Exactly. We are enough in this to be able.
We will give you one, and you can't come in if you're not going to wear a mask.
Yeah, but
that's diplomatic.
That's diplomatic, Lisa. That's good. A mask,
absolutely,
but not a vaccination card. You can't get prayer without having a card.
She said you can't come in that building unless you have the card to prove it.
Wow.
Hey Marvin, I gotta ask you a question, brother.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke out of turn early today when someone asked me. I was told to ask you this question.
Okay, Lord Jesus.
And it's a very respectful question.
Right
now, if you had a choice, what would you choose to do? What you're doing in the streets in terms of creating context and
the streets.
So you would leave pastoring right now.
I'm called to the church. I'm called to the church. My life is in the streets.
So why are you still here?
Why am I still in the church?
Yeah.
Because I accept the call to the church.
Okay, I got you.
My mission is in the streets.
Yeah.
If the pandemic has shown me that the church doors can be closed, but nothing has stopped me from being in the streets.
I respect.
Even in the pandemic. That's my life's blood.
Yeah. I respect.
Yeah. I wouldn't. Listen, I'm not saying that the church gets less of me. I do admit that I'm learning to pastor inside the context of the church, because one of the things that I've been clear about since I became pastor is that I'm going to pastor some people down in that community that's never going to come across the doors. Yeah. I've been doing it for a long time. I'm people's pastor who I've never seen inside my building, but I'm their pastor. And if it came down to me having to stand and do the honorable task of speaking over them when God calls them home, I would do it without any hesitation, because we have a relationship that they're just not going to come in the building.
Are you angry with any of your constituents who don't take that same passion and coming outside with you?
I used to have a problem with all y'all. And when I say all y'all, I'm talking pastors, leaders, and literally for 4 years, my mother was trying to get me to be her successor, and I had a problem with the pastorate. Not anybody independently, but I learned over time that what my passion is so acquainted with what my path has been that I can't hold anybody else accountable to that. And I've learned in my maturity to celebrate others and be excited because it takes a balance. You get what I'm saying? I was a lone wolf out here and I couldn't cover 82.2 square miles of Baltimore City by myself. But now, I've learned the power of partnership, and I respect however anybody gives it, God gives it to them to do. For me to go Pennsylvania Avenue into the trenches at night and to be able to settle beef and all that sort of thing, that's what God gave me. And I'll tell you this, when Tater Barksdale got killed, it made me reevaluate the comfort level that I had in some of those spaces, because I wasn't as prayerful as I needed to be. I wasn't as conscious to a lot of things. I just trusted that the streets love me. But boy, that showed me the streets don't love nobody. So I had to move differently. But yeah, I'm passionate about that work, and I gotta get off here because I gotta go to Dallas.
Enjoy yourself, man.
I want to thank y'all for being with us tonight. I ain't gonna click off without saying thank you. But thank you. And I don't know why Clay had that look on his face, because he's normally the one that takes over the show. And listen, his questions ain't nice or respectful when he do it.
I don't know if Clay's saved. I think I don't know if he's been baptized. I don't know if he's been baptized in his name.
But I want to thank you all tonight, man. This has been it's been enriching, and I was telling Shaka as we was coming up to this this particular show that as a young pastor, now listen, we had something not as bad as a fire, but we had a mold crisis in the building where we are, and we came back from the mold crisis. God allowed me to do a bunch of renovating, put up some TVs, painted, made it beautiful, and right after that, the pandemic, we wasn't even back in that space in a year, and there's some spaces in me.
Enjoy yourself. I got another pastor that had a mold problem. We still have a church.
Yo, I gotta go.
No, the mold is over. The mold is gone. But I was saying that to say those bumps and bruises have really developed my character and my perspective as it pertains. But tonight, you guys have really given me some enlightenment, and I want to thank each and every one of y'all for joining us tonight. Next week, we are going to have probably one of the most political conversations. And I want y'all to tune in, because you see, the title of the show is What's New? What's New? We have Davon Love, who is the Director of Policy for Leaders of a Beautiful Struggle and the former Vice President of the Republican Party in Maryland, Mr. Brandon Cooper, and we're going to look at both the national and the local government changes and what we see happening. Look, we got Sheila Dixon coming on in a few weeks to talk to us about where the city is trending. But I want you guys to come in, because we're going to be both talking about the new president, and we're going to be talking about what's happening in the new systems in local government. And these guys really know their stuff. Shock, you got something that we need to talk about, brother. Can we talk about it real quick so I don't miss my flight? You muted, bro.
So yeah, I wasn't prepared to do that, but yeah, real quick. If you go to Marvin's page, he's tagged into an event. We're taking 10 youth from Baltimore to Colorado for a life-changing experience, but we need people to help donate. We need donations. So there's a GoFundMe on Marvin's page right now. If y'all go check it out, it's from Black People Ride Bikes. So again, I'm asking the political community, I'm asking the church community, I'm asking all the activists, everyone who says they care about their youth. This is a prime opportunity to take 10 youth to across the country for a life-changing experience. And so it goes down in July, and we're trying to raise the money right now. So go on Marvin's page. Right. He's tagged it.
All right. So lastly, I gotta thank my guests for being with us tonight. But also, I gotta thank you. I always say, if a tree falls in the woods, nobody's around to hear it. Does it make a sound? Of course it does. Just was nobody there to hear it. And you guys came out in force tonight to hear what we had to say. We are awesomely grateful and blessed of God that we have this privilege to be able to bring great information on this platform. Continue to rock out with us. We're going to be coming to you every Thursday at 6 p.m., just like we're doing now, live on Facebook and YouTube. And it's only one thing left to say. Shop, take me home.
I can be more. There's nothing that I can achieve if I just believe. You can be more. You can make every dream a reality. We can be more. Be more, be more.
Yeah.
I can be more.
I wake up every day and try to be more. I pray I be more. It's easy to achieve anything you believe. Like hold your head high. Girl, you got a reason to breathe. I see a rare mind. Boy, you got a reason to dream. Let's take flight. Give the children a reason to see redemption. We grow up in the jacks where it's evil and wicked. Where the people with success don't want to send you a visit. But we still finna make this life worth living. Now throw your hands to the sky if you feel it. Hey, throw your hands to the sky if you the realest. You got a vision. Let's put them pistols away and make sure the OGs keep the community safe. In the world where the ladies crying, the babies dying, I think we can create that space to make a way for the ladies to ride and make baby giants. Be more, believe, let's play. I'm so in love with life. Little